Today we learn about CSS class selectors. The class attribute CSS ID selectors. CSS class selectors. CSS class selectors are used to target and style HTML elements. Based on their class attribute, a class selector is defined by a period. For example, if you have an HTML followed by the name of the class element with a class attribute of myClass, you can target it with the following CSS selector.myClass. You can apply any valid CSS properties and values inside the curly braces to style the selected HTML element S to apply a class to an HTML element. You would add the class attribute to the element, opening tag, and set its value to the name of the class you want to apply. For example, this text will be styled according to the CSS rules defined for the myClass class selector. Using class selectors allows you to apply the same styling to multiple elements on your web page without having to repeat the same CSS rules for each element individually. Additionally, you can apply multiple classes to a single HTML element, which can be useful for adding more specific styling to elements that already have a general class applied to them. To apply multiple classes to an HTML element, you would simply separate the class names with a space in the class attribute. Like this, this text will be styled according to the CSS rules defined for both the myClass and another class selectors. The class attribute. The class attribute is an HTML attribute that allows you to assign a specific class or classes to an HTML element. The purpose of the class attribute is to provide a way to group related HTML elements together and apply the same styling to all of them using CSS. To add a class attribute to an HTML element, you would include the attribute inside the opening tag of the element. Like this, this text will have the myClass class applied to it. In this example, the myClass class has been assigned to a div element. You can assign any name you want to a class as long as it follows the rules for valid HTML and CSS class names. No spaces, no special characters except for hyphens and underscores. You can also assign multiple classes to a single HTML element by including a space-separated list of class names in the class attribute. Like this, this text will have both the myClass and other classes applied to it. Once you have assigned one or more classes to an HTML element, you can use CSS class selectors to style those elements in a consistent and efficient way. By using classes, you can avoid having to repeat the same styling rules for multiple elements on your web page, which can save time and make your code more organized and maintainable. CSS ID selectors. CSS ID selectors are a way to target and style HTML elements based on the unique ID attribute that has been assigned to them. ID selectors are defined using a hash symbol followed by the name of the ID. For example, to target an HTML element with an ID of myElement, you would use the following CSS selector, #myElement. You can apply any valid CSS properties and values inside the curly braces to style the selected HTML element. To apply an ID to an HTML element, you would add the ID attribute to the element's opening tag and set its value to the name of the ID you want to apply. For example, this text will be styled according to the CSS rules defined for the myElement ID selector. IDs are used to uniquely identify specific elements on a web page and should only be used once per page, unlike class selectors. You cannot apply multiple IDs to a single HTML element. ID selectors are useful for targeting specific elements on your web page that you want to style in a unique way, such as a header or footer. However, it is generally recommended to use class selectors instead of ID selectors whenever possible, since classes can be applied to multiple elements on the page and are more flexible for styling purposes. Overuse of ID selectors can lead to overly complex and difficult to maintain CSS code. Thanks for watching. Wait for more informative video.